Fellas. Long time no see, extended hiatus from this new channel. But that will soon change. So you've read the title, you know what this video is about. And I remember whenever I was first starting out, around the ages of 17 and 18, that I would do this thing that I'm sure many of you have. I think I've heard, this is basically a self-improvement meme where you think about your life, think about how you want to fix it, how you want to improve it, how you want to embody all of these different things right before you're about to go to sleep. You're watching videos or something like that and you're super fucking motivated. And maybe if you're lucky in the morning, you wake up, you're like, dude, let's hit it. And you try and do 10 goals at 100% effort all at one time. And obviously that doesn't last very long because motivation wears out and you try to do too much at once. And then you go back to feeling like shit. And you have this self-perpetuating cycle that hopefully gets resolved for you in the long run based off of your own wisdom. But here, I'd like to mention that if you're between the ages of like 18, 23, 24, 25, that you're already predisposed to not thinking in long-term scenarios because your skin flap that sits over that part of your brain that's really chimpy isn't completely developed yet. And it's also being nuked by a lot of stimulus in our modern world. You know what I'm talking about. As well as if you're exploring drugs and alcohol, you're really just retarding that growth even more so. And some people are just innately predisposed to bad long-term thinking. And so the title of this video is Young Men Start Thinking Long-Term or something like that, whatever the fuck I titled this. I haven't titled it yet. Because anything in life that is worthwhile to do, meaning anything in life that requires long-term gratification, whether that be getting fit, learning to cook for yourself and eat healthy, to do well in school, to start and grow a business, to land a good job, to go out and get a girlfriend, to change the way that you think about life, to networking, to anything. All of those things that have that deep sense of satisfaction require consistent weeks, months, or years, or even decades of consistent but not intense effort. Okay, and so if we think back to the situation that I just mentioned as a strapping young lad who wants to fucking conquer the world, and you wake up and try to do it all in one day, you automatically are burning yourself out. You have went 110% and spread yourself across 10 different things. So let me give you a concrete example of how you could change this pattern of thinking. So let's say, for instance, one of the biggest things is that you're a skinny dude, you're an overweight dude, and you really want to get fucking jacked. You want to be big and huge. Let's say you're 18 years old. Okay, so what a lot of dudes will do at that age, just kind of go on autopilot. They're going to the gym with their fucking group of buddies, lift some dumbbells, do some fucking cheat curls, get really, really sore because they did a whole fucking bodybuilder workout that they found online that guys do when they've been juiced and lifting for 10 years, and they're sore as fuck and they never want to do it again. Okay, and then they don't. Whereas somebody who's thinking in the long term, in the course of 2 years, with a little bit of foresight, would look at this situation and be like, all right, well, I don't want to get too sore. I really just need to get in the habit of going, because I know that lifting and building muscle as a natty is a very time-consuming thing to do. So you go in there for your first day and you do 3 exercises, 3x8s, and you leave. You wake up the next day, maybe you're a little bit sore, but you go into the gym anyway. And you do roughly the same thing. Maybe you do 1 more rep. And the next day, a little bit more. Rest day, next day, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. And you've started rolling your fucking snowball. You've started rolling your snowball, and now it's building and building and building. And if you do this with this type of foresight, by the time you're 20 years old, you're 40 more pounds than you were if you're a skinny little boy. And now you're jacked and yoked and impressive to your friends, and you're still a decade away from being considered an old fucking fart. Sorry, 30-year-olds, whatever. So that's a really concrete example. That's a really easy example because it's a linear direction. But this is something that's pulling from my personal life. The way that I was raised, without really considering, the information that I'm taking in, the habits that I'm building, and things like this. I've been really bombarded with stimulation, and they've kind of followed me into adulthood here. And some of those things being, watching porn, jerking off to porn, and fucking playing video games, and maybe browsing Reddit, TikTok, Snapchat. I don't use TikTok or anything like that, but watching videos, wasting time, thinking that those are getting me somewhere just simply because it's a habit. And obviously, back to our analogy here, if I try and go to sleep, wake up the next morning, and go complete monk mode and fucking throw my TV out the second story window and burn my phone in a fire, around 48 hours I will start sweating incessantly because I will need stimulation, and I'll be sitting there biting my nails like a fucking crackhead because I've pulled the rug out from under my neurochemistry, and it's difficult to proceed. And so strategically, this is what I've been doing. One of my worst habits a year or two ago was pornography. I couldn't fucking shake it. Once a day, no big deal, whatever. But I knew it was harming me. It was a little bit too stimulating, and so I took that chunk out. It took me, let's say I was doing it every single day for 7 days a week. Knocked it down to three times a week, and I did this for 3 weeks, and then I knocked it down to once a week, and then I knocked it down to 0 times a week. Okay, and this took me an entire month to instill that habit. I was still allowed to jerk off and release and talk to other girls and and do all the other stuff, but that was the progression. And then, okay, maybe I'm spending a little bit too much time jerking off. Maybe that's still a big stimulus. Maybe I don't really want to do that anymore. Okay, that was the next implementation. Month or two, take it out. Same exact strategy. Okay, now video games. Maybe I'm spending 3-4 hours at the end of the night after work playing with my buddies, playing Warzone or something like that. Okay, maybe I'll drop an hour off of that and spend an hour reading before bed, but that's going to take me like a month to install because this is a mountain I'm trying to move here. I'm not going to try and go at it all at one time. And so this is a little bit more abstract case where I'm actually taking away habits and adding new ones in. But in my mind, whenever I started this venture, I'm like, okay, this is going to take me nearly a year or more to get where I want to be, to have the habits that I want to be. And I have to be intentional about it. And I can't make myself guilty for not being at the end of the marathon when I just started. Okay? And this is something that young dudes need to start practicing early, because with the amount of stimulation that's out there these days, it may never fucking happen. So instead of waking up and thinking you're going to get it all done in a day, maybe visualize, okay, this is going to take me a long time to do. So I need to go in there with a little bit less effort. And that's an entire another sect of this conversation, is the intensity. So if you're going 110% balls to the wall, let's say that you can maintain that for a week and then you burn out. If you instead just went 40, 50% for a 365 days straight, you will be so much further along than you would be if you just did that week at 100%. And this is applicable for everything. Life is anything that has to do with long-term gratification and building and growing as a young man has to do with a little bit less effort, tortoise mode grinding. Okay, be hungry, but don't be frantic. I think they say it in football all the fucking time. If you're a running back, be quick, but don't hurry. This is the same principle. Obviously be planning, thinking ahead, doing all these things, but don't go balls to the wall if you have an entire life ahead of you to lead. Obviously you're gonna have to sprint sometimes. Everybody has to, dude. There's fucking coyotes out there on that track, you know what I mean? You gotta get away from those bitches. But the majority of the time, 90% of your time will be spent at a moderate level of effort. And it's all about consistency. The one, what is it, the 1% rule? Or something like that. Be 1% better every day, or something like that. It's a thing. It's a legitimate thing. And if the earlier that you start doing that, the dividends will be tremendous, no matter what what area of life it is. And I know this is really theoretical, so start thinking like that, dude. Don't use guilt as your fulcrum for not starting or continuing things. If you moved your ass off of the chair towards a goal, a day is nothing. A month is still nothing. 6 months, it's a little something. A year, that's tremendous. If you just moved your ass off of that chair and did 10 minutes of work every single day for a year, you'd be so much further ahead than if you pulled an all-nighter. Done.